Hey everybody, my name is Brandon, aka the Brando Critic, and today this is going to be the most unique movie review I've ever done, because this is a movie where the director himself asked me to come to his movie premiere, and that's a pretty cool thing. I said, you know what? Why not? So he flew me out to Washington, D.C. to see his movie. And I was actually able to see all the Washington monuments, which was completely surreal. Of course, you see the White House and the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument and the Capitol building. Seeing that in person was completely surreal. I will remember that experience for the rest of my life, because it was just really fun to be around film people again, and everyone was so kind. I loved seeing the city, and I loved watching the movie. This is where the review starts. First and foremost, I enjoyed this movie. I had a great time watching it, and it's been a few days now since I've seen it, and I'm still thinking about it. And I'll go into, that a bit later as well. But when you're making a Christmas comedy, what are the two things that you need to have for the most part? Unless you're making a real cynical movie, you need it to be heartfelt and you need it to be funny. And luckily enough, A Christmas Party has these two things in spades. Now let's talk about the comedy first. I should mention that when I was watching this movie in a packed theater, there were lots of jokes that I laughed at, but it seems like no one else laughed at them. And there were lots of jokes that the whole audience laughed at that I didn't laugh at. Now, again, there was some overlap. It wasn't like a complete black and white kind of thing. But Alex Helmer will even tell you this, and he said it in his speech. This movie is a love letter to Washington, D.C. and growing up in Washington, D.C. This movie was based on his own personal experience, the people that he's known in his life, and of course, various Christmas parties through the years where politics is brought up all the time. Now, speaking as a Canadian here, it's the same thing. Politics is always going to be brought up, not just because of this current political climate. I think every big get-together, Christmas, Easter, whatever, you're going to have politics be brought up. In a town like Washington, D.C., where everyone seems to be a politician or know a politician, again, this is a politics town, it's really everywhere. So I felt like a lot of the humor was about politics and growing up in Washington, D.C. and being American. And me being the foreigner, there were a lot of jokes that just didn't land, but they landed for the entire theater. One joke, which I won't spoil, that got a huge laugh. And I actually had to ask some people afterwards, I'm like, oh, well, why was that funny? And when they explained it to me, I totally understand why it was funny, but someone who isn't as well versed in American politics like I am apparently, then not all the jokes are gonna land for you. But here were the jokes that worked for me. And again, not gonna spoil everything, but I will talk about some overall comedic moments that had me roaring. Number one, there's a character named Sean. He's just kind of that eccentric family friend who shows up at all the family gatherings. And he's talking with our main character, Jackson. Jackson is out of college and he's going through that moment that all of us have. We're going through college and, oh, childhood is over, that loss of innocence. What do I do next? I don't know what to do with my life. And he's telling him, you should go into acting. It would allow for you to express yourself and to have fun. And he is trying to get this line right for this role that he has in the future. And it keeps coming up throughout the movie where he's trying different tones and he's trying different deliveries. And they always come up throughout the movie. And I thought it was a really good running gag. My two favorite characters in the movie are Marco and CJ, played by both of the Joes. And they had, I thought, the best lines. I thought they had the best jokes and a lot of the cutaways, because of course this movie has like 17 characters all in one house. It's all on one night, one big Christmas party. I thought that their cutaways were the funniest. Marco, he's just your typical hothead. He's always getting into political arguments with people, even though, again, most people say don't talk about that at dinners and in social gatherings, but of course, it being Washington, D.C., it's just what people talk about, and he is getting involved, and he's just so angry, and there's a lot of cutaways to him just being angry about how long it takes for the food to get here, and the cutlery and the napkins, and he was great. The comedic timing of both of those actors was phenomenal. And the running gag with CJ's character is that he believes that his wife is sleeping with somebody else at that party. So he's in like detective mode trying to figure out who it is, and he's bringing people into closets going like, you're gonna help me find out who it is. Again, a great running gag. Olha, our Ukrainian immigrant, talks about how she doesn't like Christmas, and that was straight out of Gremlins. I thought it was so random, and the comedic timing, the like dry pauses, that's another thing too, is that the editing in this movie was really good. I felt like some moments could have used a bit more room to breathe in terms of just letting the laughter happen. I think there's one scene where Jackson says to, again, I won't spoil it I guess, but he reveals his feelings about a certain character, and I could feel another character get angry before he was even done talking. Like, oh, the script tells him that he has to be angry, as opposed to like letting it sit going, you what? But for the most part, That time between action and reaction, especially in Olha's moment where she's like, I don't like Christmas because of my past and whatever. My terrible accent right there aside, but that got a huge roar. There's another character named Danny Kane, and his parents are desperately trying to make him a superstar, trying to make him this famous singer, actor, triple threat kind of guy, like, oh, this guy's gonna be a star. So much so that he's even wearing a hoodie with his name on it to his own Christmas party. And I thought that was such a great little touch. I find that in movies, the funniest moments are not necessarily like the zingers, like the knee slappers. It's like those little details. And having his name on his shirt was great. And his mom and his dad are just completely out to lunch in terms of trying to get him to go into like these different shows, these different plays. Oh, let's write you an album. Let's write you a musical. Let's write you a movie. Oh, then they bring up like the Holocaust and 9/11. And I'm like, oh God, these guys are just crazy. And just seeing the chaos going on, that is what really made this movie special, and that's what made this movie memorable to me. Now I want to say this, Guy Knoll being one of the co-writers, I was talking to him after the screening, and he was saying how, of course, he's watching this movie with an audience for the first time, and he was surprised at some of the jokes that got the laughter and some that didn't. And he's talking about, you know, hearing the jokes and going, hey, you know what? Why aren't people laughing at that one? That's a better joke. That's a pretty good joke. That's a pretty good joke. And I think, you know, any comedy writer is going to think that way. It happened to me when I did my short movie. I can only imagine how it would feel writing a feature film and having audiences not react the way that you might have expected. Not saying that nobody laughed at the movie, of course. It definitely got a lot of uproars, which I think is a great thing. But this brings me to the moment where I was laughing a ton, but I don't think it got that big of a laugh from the rest of the people. Again, this is just where comedy is completely subjective. There is a dinner scene, of course, Christmas dinner. Everyone is sitting down at this super long table. There's like 17 people here, and we even have surprise guests show up. But the whole night acts as like a time bomb, where all the drama and all this chaos is going to explode. And everyone is just going to be screaming at each other, and you know it's going to happen, right? When it finally does happen, Gene Kane, Danny Kane's father, and Sean start like whispering to each other, going something along the lines of, ooh, this is where it's getting good. Kind of like that eating popcorn moment when something really dramatic is happening. Seeing all the toxic drama play out, which, you know, you shouldn't really get involved, but it's just too entertaining. That was like a Statler and Waldorf moment from the Muppets, and I thought that was just so funny. It was perfectly timed, perfectly delivered. And I was thinking, of course, you know, again, it's not really fair to do this, but it's like if I had, you know, my reins on this movie, I would have put so many more scenes of them just spectating and saying out loud what the audience is thinking. Like me, it's like, ooh, this is where it's getting good. Now everyone's real feelings are coming out, and I thought that was just brilliant. Thought it was so funny. Just sitting back and watching the shit hit the fan, it was wonderful. And speaking about that dinner scene, that was my favorite scene in the whole movie. Anybody who has ever been to film school or has done any kind of filmmaking class will tell you that the hardest scenes in a movie to direct are not action sequences, they're dinner scenes. The dinner scene in this movie was perfect. The acting, the pacing, the staging. The staging is the hard part because you need to get all those actors' eye lines perfect because, of course, as soon as you make one wrong cut, it's going to disorient the audience and you're not going to understand which way is up. It was done so well. So well. Not only were all the characters' eye lines intact, but every character was able to have their moment. The beats, they were all paced wonderfully well. The sound design, the sound mixing was great too. Of course, when you have everyone yelling at each other, it's hard to make out what people are saying, but you understood, okay, this character's feeling this character's feeling this character's trying to talk to this character. It was wonderfully done, and that's the scene that will tell you in this movie that Alex Helmer knows how to direct, because that is definitely not easy to do. But the best piece of praise I can give this movie is that I'm still thinking about it, even though it's been, 4 days now? I've watched movies that cost $250 million to make, and as soon as I leave the theater, I'm not thinking about it anymore. This movie's made on a micro budget, and I'm still thinking about it all of these days later, and I think the final shot really hits it home. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was a brilliant ending to the movie. And sometimes when you have a great movie and it has a terrible ending, it's like watching the skateboarder go up into the sky, do a bunch of tricks, but then land flat on his face. This movie sticks the landing, and I think that's the most important part. So this movie definitely gets the Christmas heart right. And I also like that, there are these acts in the movie with some title screens where it actually shows a quote from one of the presidents in the past, presidents of the United States, of course, talking about Christmas. I thought that was a nice DC blend into the whole Christmas atmosphere. Now here are my notes. The fun part, the part that everyone was waiting for. And then I have one big story moment that, well, it's not bad, but it just drives me crazy. there's a character named Ernesto. Ernesto happens to be the brother of Allie, the love interest. And again, this movie makes her a lot more dynamic, that she's not just your basic blonde love interest that the character loves and whatever, right? But the movie plays it like Adam, our main character, and Ernesto are best friends. Now, from what I understood is that Ernesto and Adam are old family friends. They're not necessarily besties, but we are led to believe that they are best friends because Ernesto keeps calling Adam his best friend. I didn't buy it. Maybe he's just supposed to be clinging to the past, going, hey man, you're my best friend, even though we don't see each other very often, and of course we've been friends for a long time because we're family friends, but I didn't really buy that connection, and I could have used a little bit more time with those two. Now again, like, there are 17 characters in the movie. Everyone needs to have their moment. Now here's my, I don't want to say issue with the movie, but there are moments where characters do something or don't do something that make me want to scream at the screen and just like smack the characters around and just yell at them to smarten up. Now, again, what I'm about to say does not derail the movie. It's just not what I expected the characters to do. I think of it like Gossip Girl. Now, if you've ever seen that show, a lot of characters will do things that just make you just roll your eyes and make you just go crazy. You're going like, why are you doing that? The obvious thing to do to fix your problems is this, and you're doing the exact opposite of it. But of course, if anybody had just sat down, calmed down, took a step back, and said, you know what? I'm gonna act like a mature adult and do what's in my best interest and in the best interest of everyone else, well then there wouldn't be a show. But of course we need the drama. So this is the love triangle between Adam, Allie, and Roman. Now my complaint, I even brought it up with Sarah Grace, the actress, who, by the way, there's no bad performances in this movie. Everyone was great. But I talked to her about this and I said, you know what? I thought your character had no consequences for her actions and she got off way too easy. So I'm going, okay, this is definitely not what I expected. Now again, I'm not saying that Allie is a terrible character. She obviously made some mistakes, but I was thinking there'd be some consequences. That's just what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that that whole love triangle is messy, and that's the thing too. That's life. Life is messy. Relationships are messy. But that was the one through line where I'm just like, I want to just take those characters and go smarten up. And it drove me a little nuts. But I guess to play devil's advocate, that's the thing. Christmas parties are brutal. Christmas parties can be ugly. That's life. You have to take the good with the bad. And that's what Christmas is all about. Bringing people together and seeing past their differences, even with all of the political unrest, even with all the drama and the adultery going on. Again, it's just mayhem, it's just chaos, but at the end you do have that overwhelming sense of joy and it hits you in the feels. You feel all nice and mushy afterwards. So with that, my final rating, I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. I really did enjoy it, even though some of those characters I just wanted to just, what are you doing, right? But you know what though? If the characters doing dumb things or not acting in the way that you thought that they should have, if you have no reaction to it, then the movie's not affecting you. But if you are thinking in that way, well then the movie definitely makes you care about them. Because you want them to act a certain way. You want the best for the characters. And you know what? If a movie ever gets you to care that much, it's doing something right. So to everyone involved in the production and everyone that I met there, like, this whole experience was one of the best of my life. And I'll remember it until the day I die. And I want to say thank you to everybody who just made this whole experience possible. And mark my words, you're gonna see these people a lot more in the future. So there you go, guys. Those are my thoughts on A Christmas Party. Let me know if you're able to see it in the future and what you thought about it down in the comment section down below. Thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys again soon. Take care.